Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video. So this is episode 3 of Things to Know When Keeping Guppies. Like I mentioned in my last video, I will be addressing questions that I've seen on Guppy Fish Enthusiasts, which is my Facebook page. Again, before I get into the topic of this video, check out homeaquaticshobby.com, where you can purchase decals to support the channel, as well as enter the giveaway contest, which you could see in my video from 2 weeks ago. Check out the videos. The topic says giveaways in it, so you cannot miss that video. But for this video, I want to cover 4 new topics, or 4 new questions, which are: can I keep guppies with blank? Insert fish name there, by the way. And do they have a heater? Do they need a heater or filter? What strain do I have? And the last question is this a male or a female? So, first question: can I keep guppies with blank? Now, based on personal experience and back to my not so knowledgeable days, I have tried keeping guppies with some other fish, and it has been successful depending on what they are. The most common fish I see people asking if they can keep guppies with is goldfish, which I do not recommend, since goldfish prefer cooler water and guppies are tropical and prefer warmer water, so I would not recommend having those together. The second fish that I have people ask all the time about are betta fish. Sometimes you can get away with this. I've had a betta fish before with guppies with 0 problems, but I have heard and seen horror stories of keeping betta fish with guppies. Now, the reason that these are horror stories are because betta fish, Siamese fighting fish in other words, also called that, tend to fight each other because of how colorful they are and their long fins. Now, guppies are very colorful and with long fins, so the betta fish usually tend to attack guppies. So in other words, I would not recommend keeping betta fish with guppies, but there is always exceptions. I've also kept Corydoras with guppies and plecos, so those I do recommend as well. Corydoras and plecos usually get along pretty well with guppies. But in other words, I like to just keep my fish just species separate, pretty much. There are charts on Google, so you can definitely search them up, and I will put them in the description below, of compatibility charts that'll show you which fish you can put together and which you cannot. I also will make a more detailed video of this, but I also recommend shrimp with guppies. So all my tanks at varying levels and population size do have shrimp in them, and the reason I do that is so that any food that the fish do not eat, the shrimp usually pick at. They also help with the water quality, because you don't have the food sitting at the bottom of the tank rotting. The shrimp usually go back and eat it. Next question is, do they need a heater or filter? Yes and yes. There's always exceptions to the rules, but I highly recommend heaters and I highly recommend filters. Heaters will keep the tank's temperature at a steady rate and where you want to keep. So for adult fish, I like to keep the temperature lower, so about 76 degrees. Adolescents at about 78 degrees, and then fry, I usually keep at a higher temperature at about 80 degrees so that they grow faster. Filters, you always want to have a filter. It allows you to keep more fish and not have to do water changes as often. Just because you have filtration and have more filtration does not mean you can skip out on water changes. Those are still highly recommended and a rule to do. But having a filter will keep your water quality going much better. So I usually use these sponge filters. Very cheap. Again, go on my website or my Amazon seller page that's linked below. You can see the filters that I use as well as the air pump that's back there. But those are what I recommend, and they're very cheap. You can't go wrong with having them. It's so much better for your fish. Plants add filtration as well, so there have been people that do not have actual physical filters but do have heavily planted tanks like outdoors. Again, it can be done. I just wouldn't recommend it, especially if you're not highly experienced in keeping guppies or fish in the aquarium hobby. If having a filter and having a heater will definitely aid much better. Again, if you keep your house and home at a steady temperature, then again you don't need a any filters. But if you use AC and you don't have stable temperatures and all that good stuff, I highly recommend that you do have a filter. Next question, and this question there is no answer to, or it's going to be very hard to answer, is what strain do I have? Unless you're buying from a reputable, if I can speak English properly, breeder that sells pure strains, most of the time you will not know what strain you have. The reason being is that there is a lot of mutts in the hobby, which are different strains bred together. For example, this male back here and this male here. So these two are my Superior Red crossed with Black Russian Dumbo ears. So these guys don't have a strain name, and unless they're breeding pure, they usually don't have a strain name since the fry will never be the same. But as long as you know where the breeder is coming from, where they're getting the fish, and if they guarantee you 100% or close to 100% offspring looking like the parents, then that is a strain. Strains usually will have their names, and they could be named by their tail and by their body pattern. So there could be cobras, there could be dragons, there could be mosaics, and then there's tail sizes, so you have deltas, sword tails, all that good stuff, and the names vary a lot. There's also the albinos. So strains are going to be very difficult to name unless you're getting from a reputable breeder for established strains, or you go based on their characteristics, so you can name them yourselves. If your fish have snakeskin, then it could be a snakeskin mosaic, or it could be a Dumbo ear mosaic, or it could be anything like that. Names come mostly from their appearances, and then there are other breeders that name fish based on other characteristics. For example, koi guppies, because they look very similar to koi fish. They could also be called, I've heard of them in China, be called redhead guppies because they have a red head. So one of those questions is always very difficult to state, and people ask this question a lot, and it's very difficult to answer and give you a direct answer to what kind of fish what kind of strain you have, because it could just be a mix of many different things. Now the last question for this video is this a male or female? Usually you're going to want to wait until they're anywhere between... Fish could be very sexed very easily much younger because of their gravid spot, but if you're not an experienced breeder, many times you won't actually know what you're looking for. So what I would recommend for beginners is wait until your fish is about 3 months old. At 3 months old, you could guarantee you 100% of male or female. So males will be much more colorful. So these guys right here are both males. Much more colorful. They will have a gonopodium, I believe I pronounced it right, and that is used for breeding. Females will not have that. Females on the other side are also larger than males. Most times will be larger than males, and will have a gravid spot. So that female has a black spot right there by her anal fin and by her tail fin, which now she turned around so you can't really see her. But that would be a female. They're also much less colorful, but there are nowadays strains where the females are also more colorful. Again, easy Google, type in male guppy, type in female guppy, or how to tell the difference, and you will see that. Also, females have more of a squared anal fin. So, those are the topics for this video that I had been questioned on Guppy Fish Enthusiasts, my Facebook page, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. We are close to 25,000 members. Thank you for checking out Home Aquatics, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're not new, drop a comment, drop a like, and thanks for checking out the video, guys. Have a good one, and until next time.